everyone, this is This Garden Rocks with Adam. Have you ever wondered how to start your seeds indoors? Well, this tutorial is going to show you how to specifically grow your vegetables inside, start your seeds, and specifically tomatoes and peppers. So let's do this. So these are the things that you're going to need to start your seeds indoors, and then eventually you have the choice of either continue growing them inside in bigger containers, or you can bring them outside and put them in a raised bed in containers or straight into the ground. So first off, you have your seeds. So these seeds are cherry tomato sweet 100s from last year. I deseeded them, dried them out, and then I have these right here. You could use your own seeds that you buy from the store. You could dry them out from your tomatoes from the year prior to start them off. These seeds specifically were passed down from generation to generation, so they're family heirloom, and they do a lot better. You want to look for seeds that are depending on what you want, whether you want to grow them in a container, so they're container variety, or if you're not, you want to try to look for specific sweet 100s or other Romas or other tomatoes that are disease resistant, and which we'll cover in another video about different diseases and how to prevent and preventative care and maintenance. But you want to start off with seeds. So I have my cherry tomato sweet 100s from last year, and then I have I did with these are jalapenos. I bought the seeds from a big box store from the year before, and then these seeds down here, I dried them out as well. They're not from this package, but if you want, you could just use the package and use the same seeds. And then I have over here, same thing, but a different pepper. I have my sweet pepper, California Wonder bell peppers. Again, the same thing like the jalapenos. I originally bought it last year in a package, and then these seeds are actually dried out from the fall. So you're gonna need your seeds. You're gonna need a pair of scissors, shears. These are my gardening scissors. You're gonna need some plastic cups. Doesn't matter if it's red, blue, doesn't matter the color, but you're gonna need some plastic cups. You're gonna need some potting mix, and also some type of seed starting potting mix. All right, so what I'm gonna show you and demonstrate is the first thing you need is you're gonna need the first 2 cups, and then we're gonna plant the seeds, and then I'm gonna show you the next steps on the progression and how it will look. All right, so first thing is you're gonna take the inside cup, just 1 cup. Then you're going to so step 1, you wanna slice about 2 or 3, probably 3 on like a triangle, like this. And then what this does is when you water it every few days, right, after the plant germinates, it's going to allow the water to drain through these holes on the bottom and be caught in this bottom cup. So you're not overwatering, because what happens if you overwater is then the baby plant, the seedling will get root rot. All right, so you go ahead and do that. And I'm going to show you and demonstrate the tomato and then the 2 different peppers. So you take the next one, same thing. So this is still step 1. Make sure that you cut 2 or 3, predominantly 3. If you want, you could also put one in the middle. I rarely do that. I like putting on the sides. So it allows the roots grow more outward as opposed to down the middle. All right, so outward growth of roots gives you a stronger plant and a healthier plant. All right, and then the last one. As I cut, again, 3, put it in the other one for good drainage. All right, so then the next step 2, is you want to fill your cups with your potting soil mix. All right, so the first one I'm going to start off with is actually the potting mix as opposed to the seed starting mix. And the reason why is when the seeds start to germinate and grow roots, it's first getting the more nutrients that are better for germination and seedlings and more loose from the seed starting mix. So that's going to be on top. And then the first on the bottom is nutrients to help plants once after they germinate to grow stronger, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to fill up this potting mix soil, right? And you want to fill it up maybe halfway, 3/4, right? And anything like this, twigs or anything that you find in there, you want to just put it down because they'll inhibit the growth of the roots of the plant, of the baby plant. Then you want to take the potting soil mix, right? You want to take the potting soil mix and put that on top. But you don't want to fill it more than that first or second line, because as you fill it up, and what's going to happen is all the water will start coming over the top. So you don't want to fill past, once you fill it with water, you don't want to fill it past around the rim here, otherwise everything will come out because everything's so light and airy and fluffy. Right, so once we have that, then our next two will do the same thing. Okay, first potting soil mix, about halfway, 3/4, maybe 2/3. Okay, and then we want to take the seed starting potting soil mix, which is lighter and fluffier, allows more air in, so it allows the plant to get the oxygen that it needs to grow and develop well. So just enough, they don't go overboard. Right, just enough. All right, and then the last one. Again, the same thing. Remember, we're still on step 2. So step 1 was cutting out the plastic cups. Step 2 is the potting soil mix. Right, and then you want to do, still part of step 2, the seed potting starting mix. A little bit more. All right, so once we have all our 3, you can do this with more, which I have done more, right? Once you have 3, or how many plants that you want to start, right? Right now I'm gonna do maybe a couple cherry tomatoes, and then maybe 4 or 5 jalapenos and 4 or 5 bell peppers, right? So once we put the seeds in, as I have all these other ones here, right? I'm going to end up putting my cherry tomatoes, because they do so much better in the ground as opposed to a container, as they have a deeper root system. Peppers do well in both containers and in the ground. However, if you put them in the ground, I live in a zone where the soil is very clay and base, and peppers like more of an acidic soil. So they're a little bit more challenging to grow in the ground unless you have a really good soil. So I can control the soil better when I use a container with the peppers. All right, so first thing I'm going to put in, I'm going to put in cherry tomatoes. And what I want to do with the cherry tomatoes, so this is step 3, putting your seeds in, right? I'm going to put my seeds in, sprinkle a little, so you have a little tiny. So I'm going to sprinkle them all around. You don't want to clump them up, you just want to sprinkle them in, push them in a little bit, kind of play with it a little, make sure that they're covered with some dirt, some soil, right? We'll do the same thing with the next one. Sprinkle a little bit in. It's okay that some of it's clumping together. You don't really need to do much. It's just kind of like, almost like with a pinch of salt or pepper. And then you just want to kind of put them down a little bit, maybe about a 1/2 inch, no more than that, because you want them to germinate. And then, so these 2 are my cherry tomatoes. And then I'm now going to use the jalapenos. So same thing that you did with the cherry tomatoes. Jalapenos, sprinkle it around, maybe 3, 4, 5 in one container. Okay, sprinkle them around, cover them like you were doing before, just like about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch, right? You don't want them too deep because you do want them to germinate. Cherry tomatoes, typically 5 to 10 days they'll germinate, and then you'll get your baby plants. And then peppers take a little bit longer. They take more like 10 to 15 days. So if they're not coming up within a week, that's okay. They usually will come up, be patient, in about 2 weeks roughly, depending how far you put them in, right? So we got our 4 for the jalapenos, right? Cover them. And now the bell peppers. So we got the sweet bell peppers that I'm going to use next. Again, same thing, sprinkle them like you're doing salt and pepper. Cover them up a little bit. Same thing with this and that one. And just kind of cover them up a little bit. Just kind of want to cover them up a little, right? There we go. And then we're going to move on to step 3 is labeling it. So you want to make sure that you get yourself a permanent marker or any kind of way to label it. You could put tags in above just to label it so you can make sure that you know what's growing out and you're not confused as to what vegetable is coming up. So in this one, this is my tomatoes. So this is my sweet, so I'm going to label it, just kind of abbreviate, sweet 100 tomato. Right, so we got the sweet 100 tomato. As I only have one variety of tomatoes, so it's not going to make a difference. But if you have multiple varieties of tomatoes, whether it's the beefsteak, the Romas, different types of cherry tomatoes, you might want to make sure that you label them so you know where you want to plant it and how you're going to plant it based on your own plan of how you're going to garden in your yard. Right, this next one is the jalapenos. So I'm going to label it as I have 2 different peppers, so it's very important that I label them. So I have the jalapenos. All right, and then I have the bell peppers or the sweet peppers, the California Wonder. So since I only have one type of bell pepper, I'm going to write bell pepper. You want to water it, so I have this measuring cup, 2 cups. You don't really need too much more than that because you're not trying to soak them in. Seeds need to get wet, get soaked a bit so that they can puff up underneath the soil and then the roots can grow. So you go ahead and you just kind of water it just around. You don't want to water too much. You want to water until the tip comes to almost to the top. If you water too much, since there's so much air in the soil, then some of the soil is going to flip to the top. So you just want to do one little circle around. Same thing here, just one little circle around, and you're going to do that with all of these guys here, or how many you have. You don't want to go too crazy. As I'm watering these guys, and I'm going to water these. And then if the soil does dry out after a few days, you just want to go ahead and do the same thing, go around like 2 or 3 circles, or to the very top, depending on how much soil you put in the plastic cups. And that's just about enough. 2 cups for about 10 cups works really well. All right, so you want to fill them up. And once you're there, we're going to move. Lift them up. You'll see water dripping underneath. So again, it creates just to demonstrate, it creates a great drainage for your plants so they don't get root rot and get too much water. And if there's too much water in here, if you overwater them accidentally, you could just simply take this out and then spill out the remaining, and it keeps a lot of the bacteria away, a lot of the algae that could kill a seed. So before I move on to the next step, a little progression of the plants. So as you saw, I put the seeds down, the cherry tomato seeds, and then about 6-7 days later, so 5 to 10 days later, my seeds started germinating. So I got a bunch of them, and when they get taller, since they are kind of competing against each other for nutrients, you either want to split them and take like 2 or 3 out and put them in another pot or another plastic cup, or if not, you could just simply use a scissor. You don't really want to pull them because it could damage the roots, so you want to kind of just take a scissors and kind of cut them until you get like 2 or 3, and then you want to cut it from there or split them into another plastic cup. So this is from 5, but this took about 6 or 7 days for them to germinate for these cherry tomatoes, and then this is about another week later. So in about 15-16 days, this is what they look like now. right? So I got 2 of them, 2 cherry tomatoes, and that's the progression. So you have day 1, you have day 6, and then you have day 15, right? And then when they get bigger, if the ground temperature is still not warm enough outside, or the air temperature is still not warm enough and you still want them to grow, they do need to take these single ones and they need to go into a bigger pot, as you don't want the plant to get root browned, which means that it gets all circled, all the roots get circled up, and they won't grow so well. So you want to get these. You could again go to a dollar store and you can pick up these little pots for a package of like 7 of them. For the last step, you want to find a good light source, whether that's your windowsill with an abundant amount of light coming in, or your very own greenhouse, which I have inside, which I will show you a tutorial later on when I create the video for how to set up your very own greenhouse inside or outside if the temperature is right. Meaning that tomatoes don't do and peppers don't do well with temperatures below 60-65 degrees. So you want to make sure those temperatures outside are about 60-65. Right now it is below 60 degrees outside, so I'm going to keep these guys in a nice warm controlled climate to help them grow better and germinate. So I'm going to put these underneath my grow lights inside my greenhouse. Spacing doesn't really matter as long as they're getting abundant amount of light. These grow lights, so if you want to get grow lights, you have to make sure that they have a light temperature, not to the touch, because I could touch these and they're not hot at all. A little warm, but they're not hot. So you want to make sure you get the light temperature, meaning how bright it is, about noon temperature. And I'll go and create a video on how to pick out your grow lights and how to make and put together your very own green. If you want to use any of the products that I've used in this video, I'm going to put a link down below. If you like the content that I provide you guys, please comment, like, subscribe. Thank you for coming. Remember, even your garden can rock too.